righty. Welcome everyone to another Trauma Talk Tuesday segment on the topic to or not to triumph trauma. With myself, your freedom coach, Nataushia Miller, and our guest speaker this evening, CEO Angelica Williams, although there's many things I can call her. But she is truly a woman of God. So when I reached out to you, Angelica, and you told me that your topic would be overcoming trauma,
Mm-hmm.
immediately I thought of that Shakespeare term, to be or not to be. That is the question. And so the title came, to or not to triumph trauma, because when I think about you and what I've witnessed for the past 4 years or so since we've connected via Facebook, I see you as a testament of the one that exercises her power to choose and to triumph trauma. That is a choice. So, to or not to choose to triumph trauma, that is the question. So, share with us why this topic is important to you, and just wherever you want to start with empowering the people on how to exercise their choice, their power, their right, their responsibility to triumph trauma.
Okay. Hi everyone. I'm Angelica, all the way from sunny Florida. Although it hasn't been sunny here, it's been rainy. But we thank God for the rain, because every seed that has been planted, God is now watering it, and it's going to bring back a harvest. That's just the word of God. That's the evangelist in me that just said that. Amen. So this overcoming trauma, right? The reason why I chose this, because just recently something had happened that I felt was a part of my journey that had to happen in order for me to realize a lot of things that had happened to me in my past. I've told my testimony a few times on different stages. I'm going to keep it brief here for the moment, just to let you know that we have the right to choose, because God sent Jesus to not only die for us to have salvation, He also sent it for us to have an abundant life. And so for me, knowing that He was sent to the cross for me to have an abundant life, going through all the things that I had gone through, I could have chose to be the victim. But because my great brother Jesus died and overcame death, hell, and the grave, I chose victory because it was already assigned to me. So, just a little backstory on me. I am a teen mom. I'm a single mother of three. I have been raped twice, back to back. One time when I was 20, I was gang raped by a man that I was in a relationship with. He called himself teaching me a lesson. And 21, I was raped by a great friend of mine at the time. I've had suicidal attempts. I've had suicidal thoughts. I've gone through some of the worst relationships in my life, physically, emotionally, um, mentally abusive. However, I chose to live my life in victory and understand that I had no choice in a lot of the things that happened in my life, and that I don't have to sit down and waddle in pity, because I have the victory. And so when people see me, they don't necessarily know that I've gone through the things that I've gone through, because I guess I don't look like what I've been through. And God has kept me. And so I wanted to talk about triumphing traumas, because a lot of times when we don't deal with our traumas will deal with us. And I had to choose to deal with my trauma and get control over that, because again, when Jesus died and overcame death, hell, and the grave, it gave me the victory. It gave me the right to choose to deal with my traumas and have control over those traumas, and allow forgiveness to enter my heart for those who had harmed me. Allowed myself to be in a place where I say, you know what, God, um, I don't want to live a life of fear, because God has not given us a spirit of fear, but a power, love, and a sound mind. And I thank God for my sound mind. And so as I've gone through those separate things of being a teen mom, I became a teen mom because my mom's always preached to me, and I thought that I could make her be quiet and say, I just got to learn the hard way. And I learned the hard way. So we got to be careful what we put out into the atmosphere. That was a choice. I became a teen mom because I wanted to feel loved. I wanted to feel that, somebody was giving me some type of love. And the first guy that I felt paid attention and actually wanted to be in a relationship with me in high school, I we became parents. I got pregnant at 16, had my son at 17, went into my senior year, dominated my senior year, got accepted to a whole bunch of colleges, went to college, 19 years old, got my second child. And I became an entrepreneur at 19 because I was like, it ain't no way I can support two kids and work a job. At that time, I had made a decision that jobs weren't for me, even though I worked several, okay, after that. But it was choices. 20, raped the first time. 21, raped again. 23, finished with college, have another child. So I have three children at 23. A person very near and dear to me telling me that nobody would want me because I had three kids and three different baby fathers. And that really being the detriment to me and how I dealt with relationships. And so I stayed in a relationship longer than what I should have. I normalized cheating in that relationship. I normalized a lot of things in that relationship. And then when I got out of the relationship, I found myself being a little bit savage. Cause I was like, oh yeah, you ain't gonna get me. I'm gonna take power, but I was taking power the wrong way. And at 29, I became a minister. So I'm fast forwarding a little bit. I'm gonna back up. At 26, I got casted for this show called Once in a Lifetime. It didn't make it to the screen, but in that casting, I think was detrimental for me to go there. The casting was, I think, was in somewhere in Georgia. But the panel, I was telling my story, and he said, you're looking for validation. And I was like, validation? I no. He said, yeah, you're looking for validation, and the only validation you need is from God and your children. And something like a light bulb went off inside of me, and I started like, I really only gotta live life for me and my children. And so just going through those first steps of making my mind up, and then 29 becoming a licensed minister, and saying, you know what, God, I want to be married one day. And I want to have a husband, and I don't want to bring in all this extra baggage that I'm dealing with. Like, I knew I was dealing with some traumas, and I know I was dealing with some things that I hadn't healed from. I knew I was living in a life of fear, although people saw me very boldly. In my internal self, I was dealing with some things that I knew was something greater for me. And so I started going to therapy. Like, at that point, my peace was interrupted. Everything was going wrong. And, people like, well, and this at 29, that was for me 5 years ago. That's when therapy was not normalized. Okay. And so I said, you know what? I'm tired. I don't care who see me at this therapy office. I'm finna go and see what's wrong with me, like what I need to do. And I have been on a therapy journey ever since. And I think a lot of times people feel like we should go to therapy when it's traumas. Yes, go for that. But it's also when you don't know which way to go, and you need someone to confide in, and you need to know what is really going on in your mind. Faith without works is dead. And we talk about, in the Black church, we can pray it away. And I sometimes have a problem with that, because we can go to the doctor and they tell us we got cancer. We still gonna go get the chemo, but we still gonna pray and believe for a miracle. But when it comes down to mental things, it's like it's something totally different. And so I started normalizing that in my life, because I realized that I want to be a great mother. I have an autistic son, and I have two daughters under him. And I say, you know what? If I don't do this for anybody else, I got to do it for them, because I was yelling and being angry and being depressed. And they saw me cry sometimes and some days, and said, you know what? I got to get better for them. So at 29, as a licensed minister, I was going to therapy. 30, became an ordained evangelist. And I thought that I was ready to be married. I thought I was ready to be in this relationship, only to find out, even though he was a great provider and all those things, it was just some things that was wrong there. And I almost settled, because I thought that that's what God had for me. That's all I deserved. And so I said, okay, I stayed in that so I was about 32, and it was a situation. It was like a relationship that was a situationship. It was like, I can't stand you, you go home, but then, okay, I love you, come back. It was so toxic, and I was just like, and I was in ministry. Let me be clear with everybody. I was in ministry, and I think a lot of times we get in ministry and we think that that's just all, that's the end all be all. In ministry is where even more turbulence comes to play, because God is trying to shape you and mold you into the person that He created you to be. And so 32 years old. I was in that relationship from 30 to 32. And then after that, we became friends because I just realized that he just wasn't capable of being in a relationship, or he just wasn't capable of being in a relationship with me. And so at 32, I really, really, like, I said I went at 30 to therapy, but at 32, I really started honing in on therapy. They told me I had overthinking stress syndrome, where I would create situations that wasn't even there and think and stress over them. And I was like, huh, I probably do. And I did.
Mhm.
Like, I really would do that. I would create. I have a great imagination. I used to love to read books. Still read them to this day, and my imagination runs wild. And I found myself creating situations and stressing about them, which caused depression and anger. And so at 32, I really started honing in on the inner work. We talk about do the work, do the work. What does work look like? Work
Mhm.
looks like creating healthy boundaries. Work looks like saying no. Work looks like saying, I'm nice, but nice is not always being obedient. Nice is just saying, I'm kind. Being focused, though, is what means being obedient. So I started focusing more. And it was
Mhm.
turbulence. I can't even describe, or even describe the things that I've gone through in life, and even put them and form them in words. One day God will allow me to release that book. Um, but in 2018, that was a pivotal moment for me, because in 2018, I started losing a lot of things. God had told me, He said, Angelica, you're going to do women's empowerment. Now, mind you, youth, I'm over the youth. I'm the youth minister at my church, youth pastor, whatever you're going to call it, but I'm over the children. I love children, okay? And He was like, you're going to do women empowerment. I'm like, who are you talking to? He was like, you. And I was like, no. And the reason why is because I had suffered at the hands of women in ministry. Because I know so much, my mom used to always tell me, Angelica, you need to dumb me down. And I'm like, well, I like helping people. But my helping was hurting. My helping was perceived as being a know it all. My helping, a lot of women talked about me. I had done some women empowerment events, and these women ganged up on me, and they said some nasty, hurtful things, and they all got back to me. And I remember being depressed for like 4 months. And when God had said, you're going to walk in women's empowerment, I'm like, man, do you know that women's empowerment is a mean girl sport? I'm not doing that. He was like, I'm putting you in it to change the trajectory of women empowerment. Because not only are you going to talk about it, you're going to be about it. You're not just going to have a conference. You're going to actually do discipleship. And I was like, okay, that's great. Nice. And so even though I did my first women empowerment event in 2017, yeah, and was getting ready to do another one in 2018. And no, I did my first one in 2018. And it was great. It was good. Um, Met some connections. I even invited people that didn't like me, and they came. So, and at that moment, that was in like the summer of 2018, October of 2018, God had me start this challenge called God Size Your Dream. And as I was studying that, I was thinking about my environment. I was taking care of my grandma at the time, who had dementia. My son had autism. He had broke 10 TVs. So I had to deal with that. He had this anger streak. I didn't know where it came from. Um, and God was like, you're getting comfortable with your environment. Who did I say you were? And I was like, still not wanting to heed to that word. And I'm in ministry. I'm an evangelist. I'm preaching. But I didn't want to heed to that word. God literally told me to move out of the apartment that I was in. I said, no, I'm comfortable here because nobody's not going to help me move. Nobody's going to help me move my grandma. Nobody's going to help me move all this stuff. Well, God made me move. So in 2018 in October, He had me do this challenge called God Size Your Dream. I started researching the scriptures. I started searching these scriptures. I started getting the challenge together. It was a 5-day challenge. I remember putting a flyer out because at the end of it, I was going to start this coaching program, not knowing that God was teaching me something in the midst of that challenge. Day 3 of that challenge, I lost everything. My apartment that I was in, so I renewed the lease in my apartment in like April or something, and it was like God had told me to move, but I didn't because I was comfortable there, and some stuff had started happening, like the window got broke, the carpet got mildew, just a lot of stuff, and I went to court because I was paying too much money for all the stuff is broken and y'all ain't fixing it. And so we went to court, and they reduced the rent, and then the final judgment, because they hadn't fixed anything in a couple months, was for me to move out. And they gave me 2 weeks to move out. I said, I could be out by tomorrow, but technically I couldn't. I just was talking. But they gave me 2 weeks. Well, a new property management took over. And when that property management took over, they found a loophole in it. And they served me a 24-hour notice. And it was like, you have to. I said, no, I got 2 weeks. It was like, no, you. And I'm calling the court. And you know, it's hard to get through the judge and everything. So I couldn't do nothing but try to get everything I could out of that house, out of that apartment, find a U-Haul. A title loan was taken out on the car that I had. Car got towed that day. Stuff. I took just pretty much clothes, laptops. I think I took the furniture because it was paid for, the TVs and all that stuff. I took out everything I could, but I still left a lot of things. And so I found the place that I'm in now the same day. You know, you never get approved for an apartment the same day. It like takes like a couple days or something like that. But I found this place same day. I'm getting ready, packing up U-Haul, getting ready to move here. My sister had cleaned out the U-Haul because it was like some trash. She threw the money orders in the trash. So I had to go dumpster dive for these money orders. By the time I did that, this leasing officer had closed, and I couldn't get. They told me to come tomorrow, the next day. And so I'm riding around the U-Haul with my kids, and I'm like, God, I don't even have no money. I don't put all this money into this apartment, and to move in. And he's like, check your points. And so I used to travel. I was traveling a lot, and so I had points with Marriott. Those points paid for that one night in that room. I got in that room at 8:45. It was day 3 of this challenge. I said, God, do I gotta really do this challenge? I'm tired. He said, yeah, show up. And I was like, man, this is crazy. So for 15 minutes, I was getting my kids settled, getting them laid down. They was already tired. And I tell people, go look at day 3 of God Size Your Dream. You will see I was in a hotel room doing day 3. And from that was an integral moment, because I started She Has a Boss Hustle mentorship from that. And they didn't even know what I was dealing with. I was semi-homeless. I was in a hotel, but I had women that came up under me under that mentorship. And so that was day 3. We moved into the apartment a week later, and I moved, and because I could move everything upstairs, I put some stuff into the storage. Well, a week later, that storage flooded, and it mildewed everything. And so what I moved into this apartment with was clothes and a full-time bed, because that was pretty much the only thing me and my kids at that time could move up these stairs. And lost all of. I was like, I'm gonna go get it. It rained and it flooded, and the storage in the flood zone, so it mildewed that. So for a while, we didn't have nothing but a full-time bed and our clothes on our back, and me and my kids slept on that. And my businesses had dried up, all 4 of them. Income slowed up. And then let's see, the next day or maybe 2 days later, no, my cousin got killed. October 8th. I had to plan a funeral. He got buried on October 20th, and October 24th was my 33rd birthday. And I was like, oh my God, this is my Jesus year. I'm going to suffer a lot. I already knew it. I guess I had already started. And so December came, and I took a part-time job with Men's Warehouse, because I was just like, I got to get a job, because I couldn't think straight. I couldn't think. And I worked with Men's Warehouse for 2 years. I didn't have a car. But in the midst of October 2018 and March of 2020, I didn't have a car, right? But I had speaking engagements. People would see me on Facebook. Oh, my God, I just got all these speaking engagements. I was taking Uber, Lyft, walking, catching a ride, all that stuff. Now, I was dressed to the nines when I went to the events. But one thing God told me is, you're going to do what I said. And so I had to do what he said. And so I walked into women's empowerment. I started doing Pray Laugh Slay. I started, mentoring women in the sector of business. And this is October to March of 2020. And the reason why I'm saying this, because I showed up to events, speaking engagements for young girls and older women and everything, with no car. But I showed up because that's what God said my assignment was. I had to be faithful when my situation didn't look favorable. I had to be faithful to the assignment when nothing around me looked like a win, but I knew God promised me the victory. And so I had to show up, and I did that. And in March of 2020, right before the pandemic, March 14, 2020, God gave me a car. Walked off the showroom floor with a car less than 40,000 miles, an SUV, less than $300 a month, or payment what I wanted to pay, and my credit most definitely Didn't say that, but God was showing me, because you was faithful, I'm going to be faithful to you. So it was no more Uber, lifts, or walking or waiting for a ride. I had a car. Week
Mhm.
later, the pandemic happens, and it furloughed me from Men's Warehouse. Now, let me tell you why that didn't shock me. Because in February, God sent a prophet that said, your time on man's job has expired. And I was like, okay, but I like what I do.
Mhm.
Here I am negotiating with God again. I like what I do, God. I dress men. I love this. I'm learning. Your time on man's job has expired, and you need to focus on coaching, what you've been doing, but focus on even more of a business with women. And I'm like, oh my God. And
Mhm.
so I they furloughed us at the job. I was operations manager, and so they kept saying, "Oh yeah, we're gonna bring y'all back," because I'm the third in charge. So it's the store manager, the assistant manager, and the office and the operation manager. That's me. And so they're like, "We're gonna start bringing y'all back slowly." Well, it turned in March, turned into May, May turned into June, and we was furloughed for that long. And it was like, "Oh well, y'all gonna have to collect." They paid us up until I think June. It's like, "Oh, y'all gonna have to collect unemployment." I'm like, "What?" Now, gratefully, I hadn't started coaching. I heeded what the prophet said, because one thing about me, I can't sit down and not do nothing. Although my body was tired from working in retail and doing all the things as a manager, and everybody thought I should have slept my life away, I was up doing things. I was up, God would give me visions and dreams, and I was up doing these things. So I hadn't got a few coaching clients in that time. So I had some money coming in, and I can say that God never let me slip for nothing. And
Mhm.
so June comes, they say apply for unemployment. Well, everybody know how unemployment was going. Okay. And so then in August, they terminated me completely from the job. They terminated my position out of there. They gave me severance pay, and it was like, well, we don't need you. And it was so crazy, because I had went and stood in that store right before they did that. And I just had this peace. And God said, you won't come back here. I'm gonna take
Mhm.
care of you. And I was like, okay. I didn't panic. I didn't fear, because I already saw his hand. I already saw what he was doing. And so in September, I started doing this thing called a 7-day fasting challenge, which led to me having some women join. And I was doing Take 10 Bible study. And what happened was, these women were listening to my voice. I had like 5 or 6 viral videos that happened. And it caused me to start this group of women, and it started at 7 women in September, and now I'm at 127 women that I
Mhm.
disciple, and that they heed my voice. They're my assignment. I don't let just anybody in the group. And God is steady moving me forward. I experience turbulence all the time. I experience different things all the time. And the reason why I wanted to talk about traumas is because sometimes if we don't deal with our traumas, it can cause us to be stuck, and it can cause us to not fulfill the promises that God has put before us. It can cause us to not step into that place that God has predestined for us if we don't deal with those traumas, because we'll always operate from the fear of the trauma. And so that's why I said I had to deal
Yeah.
with my trauma, because I had to step in that predestined place. It was either like you're going to go to continue to go through this cycle of continuous struggle, or you're going to go through this cycle of struggle to learn a lesson, and then I elevate you to the next level. And so I had to
Mhm.
make a choice. And in my life, it has been full of choices, and I've always chose to obey what God had for me in the plans, even if it didn't look favorable, because I learned in those 2 years between 2018 and 2020 that I still had to show up even when it didn't look favorable for me. And so it's one of those things where you have to say, Angelica, or you have to say to yourself, I know my traumas.
Mhm.
I was raped twice, teen mom, of single mother, 3 kids, 3 different baby daddies, and the enemy used to try to fight me through my kids, and then he tries to fight me through relationship. I know that I've done the work as a woman. I know that whatever man gets me, he's going to be blessed. But sometimes the enemy will whisper in my ear and say, "Nobody ain't gonna want you. Nobody." And I
Mhm.
say, you know what? The man that's waiting for me, and that God has
Mhm.
created for me, he'll want me. All I'm doing is working. And
Right.
so that's why I had to deal with my trauma. So when those voices started coming in, then I'm able to shut them out. And I'm able to use the power of my mouth and open up and speak in the atmosphere and say, you know what? I know who I am. I had to go through all those things to understand who Angelica is. When we go through traumas in our life, it is for us to understand who we are and who God possessed us to be. My favorite scripture is Psalms 139:14, where he says, we're fearfully and wonderfully made. We are a marvelous work of his hands. We are a great creation. We are a masterpiece, yet a work in progress. One thing about a masterpiece, there's always a mess before that masterpiece. It looks crazy. It looks like it doesn't form anything. It just looks like some blurred lines. But in the end, it becomes an amazing piece of work that is so valuable. We look at the Mona Lisa, and we look at the different works by the Picasso, we look at the Last Supper and the things about Da Vinci, and we still marvel at those works that were created hundreds of years ago. What God has created you to do, what God has created me to do, the things that you go through is what makes you up to get to that place. And I had to understand that the different, I used to always say, I'm the oldest of 6 kids, oldest of 10 on my dad's side, oldest of 6 on my mom's side. And I'm like, I gotta go through all this? Are you kidding me? But I had to understand that God had blessed me with the tools to go through this from birth. I was validated from birth. We're all validated from birth, and we got every tool to go through it. I don't, I being raped twice and having kids young and having suicidal thoughts and having suicidal attempts and not feeling worthy and not feeling like someone loves me and not feeling like I'm ever going to make it out of the situations that I was in, to God putting me in a place just because I was obedient. I was hard-headed now because I made that choice. But then I became, you know what, God, I'm going to submit to your plans for my life. Jeremiah 29:11. We talk about those plans. We even quote the scripture. But are you submitting to the plans that God has for your life? Because sometimes those plans look ugly. Sometimes they don't look favorable because they don't look like what we thought. It looks completely different. And so in my timing, where people have left me, where people have talked about me, where people have turned their back on me, I still can speak to them people this day and pray for them. Because even the scriptures say, pray for those that despitefully use you. And everybody say, how do you keep overcoming? I keep overcoming because I remember what God has already done. When I get in situations, like, matter of fact, this whole rape that happened when I was 20, when I was in therapy, my therapist said, Angelica, your body, you're going to experience repressed trauma where it's going to come back to you when your body is ready to respond. Well, that just happened recently. I think in February this year, that rape came back with every detail of my body felt it. But I was able to deal with it. I knew how to call my therapist and let her know, like, it's happening. I had felt I saw everything. I saw when the one guy came and then the guy that I was dating came after the hitting, the beatings, the bruising, the blacking out, the waking up, the sitting in a hot tub and sitting there until I was completely numb, and then getting out and just laying there and feeling nothing. All of that came back in February of this year. And it was only because my body was ready. I didn't go into shock. I didn't go into depression. I cried a little bit and I was a little bit emotional. But I said, okay, God, I remember now. I remember. I had buried that so deep. And I had to forgive that person too. I had to forgive him. I forgave the one that raped me at 21. I had to forgive both of them at 20. The ones, and it wasn't a phone call or nothing. It was just me releasing them from my heart, because I said this year I was leaving no blessings on the table. And leaving no blessings on the table means that I got to forgive people that have wronged me. I have to let go things that harmed me. I have to let go. I have to let go these things that surrounds my mind. And I have to say, you know what, God, you just be God. I had to let go of the grips of control. And this is why it's important to deal with your traumas and triumph over them in order for you to know how to navigate when something hits you so hard. Instead of you laying there and being depressed, because I've had my moments of being depressed for 4 and 5 and 6 months. This time I said, okay, Angelica, you want to get up. You're going to go out. You're going to take a walk. You're going to get dressed. You're going to do your fashion. You're going to do those things that make you feel good and that make you feel better, because you know how to navigate. And so I had to learn how to deal. So when these things start happening, I don't sit there. You want to know why? Because I got a whole nother assignment. I have an assignment of women that are watching me. It's people watching me that I don't even know who they are. And God said, Angelica, You're called to nations. When I try to limit myself to a small box, God said, no, you're called to nations. And guess what? He allows me to see it every day when women from the UK and Africa and Australia start contacting me and say, I heard your testimony. I heard you on Clubhouse. I saw you on Facebook, and I love what you're doing. And you're absolutely amazing. And to see that I'm causing that from my life, from enduring that. My motto now is, I'm going to walk through and hold the people's hand that I wish somebody would have held mine when I went through those times. I have women call me every day. I'm going through this. How do I deal with it? Can I just talk to you? I don't judge people by what they've gone through, because I know what it's like to be there, and I know what it's like for people to make you feel worse for being in that place, like kicking you while you're down. And so now where I see what God is doing and causing me to a global atmosphere, and I'm saying, okay, God, I see why I took the hits. I see why many people left me. I see why people, turned their backs on me. I see it now. I understand it. And do I hate any of those people? No, I love them. If they was to call and ask me for something right now, I would give it to them. Because I have no hateful bone in my body, because I also understand that we wrestle not with flesh and blood, but spiritual wickedness in high places. It's the spirit that comes after us, not the being.
Right.
And so that's why it's important for us to deal with our traumas so we can have a choice.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you so much, Angelica. So a few things, I'm just going to do a quick recap of some points that I grasped as we close on out. We have the right to choose because Jesus came and gave us the abundant life. And then I like how you said, if we don't deal with our traumas, it will deal with us. And it'll also cause us to be stuck in that place and hinder our ability to navigate new traumas in our life, trials and tribulations that we may encounter. So that's why it's necessary for us to deal with our traumas. And I want to say something that I always highlight about that particular verse, that Jesus came that we may have life and have it more abundantly. And that word may means that there is a prerequisite. It means that the abundant life is a possibility, is not a guarantee. And what Angelica shared with us is one of those prerequisites, dealing with our traumas. That is a prerequisite for the abundant life. Also, the focus on engaging the internal work to deal with those traumas, to come to a place of wholeness, to be healed, to allow forgiveness to consume our heart. And so we're releasing the residue of our traumas, because we're actually releasing the people that's connected to those traumatic experiences. And so how that's very important. Another thing is a relationship with the Lord. A lot of her testimony, we heard how she was obedient to the voice of God and how God continuously spoke to her, how she operates and moves in the prophetic, where she's always hearing instruction from God, even if she wasn't in a space to where she was this quick to follow through with her yes. Right. She was still able to hear him. And so that is a key component as well. We want to always make sure we're cultivating that personal relationship with the Lord so that we can hear his voice, and that we ask the Holy Spirit for some help to follow through with our yes in obedience, because obedience is key to the elevation and the fulfillment of the promises and purposes and plans that God has for our life, as well as that possibility of an abundant life. Right. It is a result of obedience. So she's highlighting a lot of prerequisites for us. And then the last thing that I really want to touch on is because she really shared with us how there was an internal narrative happening, but no one else can see the evidence of it because of her external appearance or her external responsibilities, roles and responsibilities, because she was still fulfilling her purpose and call on her life, but she knew that she had to take responsibility to deal with that internal stuff that wasn't in full alignment with what God has called her to do and where God was taking her on this journey. And I love that because it showed, her testimony shows how she went through a healing to where her soul was healed, the realms of her emotion, the realm of her mind, her will, and it was brought into alignment. And then it came to a space where this February, her body went through the healing, when her body was finally in this place where, okay, now we can remember the traumatic experience, now we could bring it back and really fully release it. And so it really shows how healing from trauma, triumphing trauma, includes our entire selves as a human being. We are a spirit, we possess a soul, we live in a body. We are not just triune beings, but we comprise of 6 parts. 6 represents man. So you are a spirit, you possess a soul, you live in a body, and there is 3 realms of your soul: your emotions, mind, and will. So I love that how her testimony showed the process of triumphing trauma at every level of herself as a human being. Come on now, somebody.
Can
And
I
so
say
it
something
has,
right there too? Because we
yes,
talk about doing self-care and we outline it as, I'm going to get my hair done, I'm going to get a massage, and I'm going to get my, those things. But
right.
when are we doing soul care? Soul
Mm-hmm.
care is, I want to go to therapy. I
Mm-hmm.
need to get peace in my life. I need to create healthy boundaries. I need
Right.
to learn to say no. Because
Right.
sometimes when we are a yes person, the yes part of us will get us in trouble with God, because
Right.
we want to say yes and we got such a big heart, and we think that when we are saying no to people that it's being mean, but it's not being mean. It's actually us just saying, I got to do things for myself. I have to do
Right.
things for what I have going on. I have to do I have to be obedient to the list God gave me. Because when I
Right.
used to be the yes person, I wasn't taking care of me. And so
Right.
when we talk about self-care, we need to also do soul care, because self-care takes care of the external, but soul
Mm-hmm.
care is what's the internal. That's what makes, when I talk about being the glow coach and I talk about the glow, I had a glow because I was doing the work internally. It
Right.
naturally shined, and I was not even, I wasn't
That's
pregnant.
what it
So we
comes
get
from.
pregnant, they'd be like, girl, you glowing. No, I was pregnant with purpose, because I
Mm-hmm.
was doing the work of God. I was taking care of the soul of mine. I was forgiving
Right.
people. I was being okay with people leaving me and understanding that they had reached their max capacity with me, and that
Mm.
they are still going on their own, and I'm still going to keep thriving and elevating. I think so oftentimes we get caught up when people leave us and talk about us and stuff like that, but it's just that we put unfair expectations on people.
Right.
And if they're at their max capacity, we just got to love them for where they are. And so that was a part of my soul care, that when so many people were leaving me and talking about me and things like that, I had to be okay with it and not
Right.
let it stop me and not let it depress me like how it had done so much in the past. Because, God said, okay, if you can't deal with this at this level, how can I take you to nations?
Right. Right.
When
Mm-hmm.
God started talking to me that way, I have to say, okay, God, I get it. Because I used to always say, now, and I know I ain't the only one. When we see them people, celebrities, and there be people in the comment section, you be like, how they don't react? I would have did such and such. But it's
Right.
gotten to a level where they don't see that anymore.
Right.
They're so focused on what they have going on. And that's what I had to do. I had to understand that people that may respond or talk about me and say these things, and the reason why I'm talking about people, because I think that's an access point that works with all of us. Because we say
Mm-hmm.
that the enemy is coming with a pitchfork and a red tail and horns. The enemy will literally come through the people that we call friends or the people that we call
Right.
family. And that's why it's so important for us to know that we wrestle not with flesh and blood, but spiritual wickedness in high places. It's the spirit that's trying to come and attack your purpose. And the moment that you realize that it is greater in you, that's why the attacks sometimes are so heavy. It's not God punishing you, it's Him
Mm-hmm.
positioning you. He's
Mm-hmm.
positioning you for your greater. He's positioning you for your purpose. We want to talk about a real PPP loan. That is Positioning, wait, hold on. Positioning, process for purpose.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Positioning, process for purpose. God has to, he has to take you through the process. My bad. He has to take you through the process to position you for your purpose. And what does
Right.
the process look like? Everybody's process is different. We don't get a
Right.
manual for this stuff. We got it in school, we got it at the job, but for life, it's a teacher by experience. It's a
Right.
teacher by the people that leaves us. And so when we're going through our process, it's positioning us for purpose. God is not punishing you; He's positioning you.
And the process isn't to punish you, it is to purify you. It's a purification process,
Look at all these keys
because
that come.
he wants us to be holy moving forward, and he wants his glory from our assignment. So he's really purifying our soul as we engage the internal work of our soul, because the kingdom is joy, peace, and righteousness in the Holy Spirit. That is the kingdom. And that
Right?
is the realm of our souls. We want to have joy in the realm of our emotions, peace in the realm of our mind, and righteousness in the realm of our will. So that is the whole purpose of the process, is to purify us so that we're in alignment with the kingdom as we move forward in partnership with the Holy Spirit, because it's not by might or power, but by the power of the Holy Spirit invested in us that we go forth and do those greater works. And in turn, God blesses us with an abundant life. Come
Yeah.
on now, somebody. So
Yeah.
I love it. Love it. Love it. So, Miss Angelica, as we close out, and I just want to show y'all my t-shirt, because I'm wearing one of her t-shirts. Title CEO,
I
I
pray different.
pray different. Yes. So share with everyone how they could contact you, where to follow you, and all of that good stuff as we close out. And thank you so much for sharing your testimony. It was such a pleasure to have you with us.
No problem. It was absolutely amazing. Like I said, we have been at this for um 4 years. We've been knowing each other for 4 years, and it was amazing because you were one of my first t-shirt clients. And you were way in California, and I had this inspiration. I'm like, how she found me way in California? So that was like the first thing that God said, okay, Angelica, I can show you in all aspects, okay? But you guys can find me on Instagram and Facebook, Angelica A.W. Williams. You can my website is www. No, awministriesglobal.com. But yeah, if you pay attention to my social media, on Instagram and Facebook, Angelica A.W. Williams, you'll see everything Angelica. Also, if you want to follow my Glow page, it's all things Glow, and that's the Instagram and the website. Um, I'm getting ready here to gear up to do another cohort of mentorship for business, those women that want to start business or those who have a business and want to scale and grow. I'm starting that because God took me from last year having a negative account, negative account to making a 5-figure months. And so I thank God for that. And I haven't wanted for anything. And so I want to teach some other people. I've been an entrepreneur for 15 years now. So I've learned some things. Okay. So I'm going to be getting ready to start that up. I'm actually getting ready to, I actually created a group today. She has a boss hustle. And it's going to be a mentorship and then a 60-day intensive. So that will be coming up in July. And I'm just amazed at what God is doing. So if you follow Angelica A.W. Williams on social media, Facebook and Instagram, you will see everything that I have going on and everything that God is doing. And I want to shout out my women that are on here. They are always supporting. They're so amazing. I see some of them in the comments. Thank y'all so much. And I'll see y'all in the morning at 7 o'clock for our morning motivation prayer call. Okay. So we thank God, and I thank God for you, and I thank God for the platform and the opportunity.
Yes, indeed. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. So thank you all to those of you who were able to catch the live broadcast, and to those of you who catch the replay. Thank you so much for joining us. And that is all, everybody.
Awesome. Have a good night, everyone.
All right. So this is your freedom coach, Nataushia Miller, and CEO Angelica Williams, signing off until next time. Peace and freedom.